The year is 1973. It's been 4 years since man first walked on the moon. Richard Nixon is president for now. It was also one of the most active years for UFO sightings since the 1940s. And in Mississippi, the small industrial town of Pasgacoula on the Gulf of Mexico was about to be thrust into the national spotlight by two men who encountered something extraordinary.
I heard them talking about a spaceship and everything, and I really thought they were just joking about it. Because back then, at night, officers get bored, so we would come up with crazy stuff on them.
Scared the heck out of the ladies who were cleaning up the Mississippi Press that night. They were loud, they were excitable, they were banging on the door, and the door obviously was not going to open, and they really wanted to get in so they could call the sheriff's department.
Dispatcher said, Captain said, somebody wants to talk to you on the phone. I said, hello. He said, Captain Ryder, I want to tell you something. I said, well, go ahead and tell me, man. I'm busy. No, he said, you'll laugh. I said, look, if you want to tell me something, tell me. I'm not going to laugh. He said, I got picked up by a UFO. And I laughed.
The man on the phone was Charlie Hickson, a shipyard foreman who was fishing that night with Calvin Parker, an 18-year-old fresh to the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Well, I told him, I said, look, stay right there. I'm going to come over there and talk with you about this thing.
Calvin was visibly shook up. I mean, he was visibly, it wasn't like it was a joke and he was smirking or something like that. He was upset.
Deputies were skeptical of Charlie and Calvin. Think about it, abducted by a UFO. So they put him in a room together with a voice-activated recorder hidden in a drawer.
I figured when I left the room and shut the door, they'd say, oh boy, we got them people fooled. But they didn't. That boy was climbing the wall. He was scared to death. He kept telling Charles, don't talk to them and people come back and get us. But the news broke and people was calling from everywhere.
Pascagoula had suddenly exploded into the national spotlight, literally overnight. The men went back to work the next day, but so many calls came in, they had to leave. Demands for interviews started. People on the coast became alien crazed, looking skyward for weeks.
Charles talked very readily about it. Calvin kind of dropped off a little bit, and I don't really know what happened to him, but he was not a big spokesman.
Calvin got freaked out, plain and simple.
The attention, sudden and intense, didn't suit Calvin. He just wanted to go home to the country. He dropped out, for the most part, for 45 years, until now.
About a football length field from the water edge of the river.
100 yards?
Yeah, 100 yards. So it's probably close to in here. I was looking across at the old Coast Guard station, an old Noah ship that used to sit in there. That's when it landed behind us. And we turned around, stood up, turned around and looked, and it must have been the door that opened where all the bright lights come out of.
You saw the reflection first on the water?
I saw the blue. When they turned me loose, I got in my car and left. I went back home, and I didn't come back. Wasn't going to.
It sounded like you might have been a little annoyed with Charlie, that maybe Charlie had leaked it, and because Charlie made a life out of this.
It really teed me off at him. I mean, I was upset at Charlie because I didn't want Charlie to go public with it. I darn sure didn't want to be public with it. And Charlie told me he wasn't going public, and he took it and ran with it. And Seemed like every time a camera flashed, he was in front of it. Every time there was a conference, he was at the conference.
But I wanted to ask you too, you know, it was so poignant to me, your reaction afterwards, to gather up all your clothes and throw it all away and to wash yourself with bleach.
I just knew, to me, now they didn't look right. They looked like something was wrong.
The aliens?
Right. And I just knew that maybe they had brought some kind of disease, a bacteria down, or some kind of radiation.
But you had nothing, nobody to talk to about it?
No,
Or to deal
Charlie's the
help
only
you?
one. He acted like he could care less. So I was thinking to myself, I don't want to kill a lot of people off. So when we got home that night, I took all my clothes off, put them in a bag, even my shoes, and put them in a bag, and I threw them away after I took my bath.
What did happen afterwards? Because, you know, fame, this sort of instant fame, how it changed your life.
If I had wanted my life to be an open book, I would have opened it up before then. I wanted to get a job, retire at the same job, pay on a house all my life, pay on a car all my life, and do normal things. But nothing was normal about the way my life ended up.
That boy was upset. And you don't get upset by nothing. And he wasn't playing either. And if he was acting, he should have been in Hollywood because he was putting on a good show.
You may have heard this story from the 70s. Two men fishing on the river say aliens grabbed them.
Now, 45 years later, for the first time, a witness is coming forward saying she saw this alien encounter.
It scared the living hell out of you. I still sometimes have a few nightmares about it. I really think that I was abducted by some kind of life form from another planet.
Calvin Parker is sticking by his story. On October 11th, 1973, he and now deceased Charles Hickson say while fishing they were pulled onto a spacecraft, examined, and then put back down. Their story has made Pasgacoula known around the world.
They'll say, oh, that's where that UFO encounter was.
Rebecca Davis with Main Street Pascagoula welcomes the attention. She's working to place a historical marker across the river from where the alleged abduction occurred.
It's time to bring these things out and be proud of our heritage because it is a part of it.
On the same October 1973 night, not far from where the marker will be placed on the east bank of the river, Maria Blair was waiting with her husband Jerry Blair for him to leave on a boat to work offshore. What she saw that night is something she's telling for the first time publicly.
It was a warm night. It was like 70, 73 degrees. And so it was kind of easy to sit in the car and just wait for the captain to get there.
While they were waiting, Jerry went to sleep, and Maria saw what she describes as strange. A blue light streaking back and forth.
You're looking up at the sky and you're looking at stars and you're looking for the Big Dipper and all kinds of things, and that's when I seen it rise up in the sky over here. Where I seen it come up was probably over in this area somewhere, the blue light, and it was over, just like I said, right over where they were abducted.
At the time, she thought it was a plane or a helicopter.
You don't think it's UFO?
The blue light continued moving without noticeable sound for about 30 minutes. And when it went out of sight,
we hear this loud water, just like something just fell in the water. It was a loud splash. The water just riffling, and then when I looked down, that's when I seen it look like a person in the water. I'm looking right, it was like right below me.
Maria still doesn't know what she saw in the water and didn't think much of it until the next day when she heard about what Parker and Hickson had told the Jackson County Sheriff's Department.
I was watching two men being abducted by a UFO.
Despite believing what she saw was a UFO, she never talked about it to anyone except her family. Maria's husband wanted her to keep quiet.
When she would talk about it, I'd tell her, shut up. I said, people are going to think you're crazy.
But after seeing a recent media report about the abduction, Maria got the courage to come forward. Her motivation? To give Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson's story validation.
I always wanted to talk to them, just them, about it. and just see, let them know that I knew that they weren't lying, because they weren't lying.
In 1973, Maria Blair and Calvin Parker were separated by a river. Now, with a 45-year-old secret washed under the bridge, Maria met Calvin face to face for the first time.
How are you? Good to see you.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, wow. It's my husband, Jerry.
Last time I
Nice
saw
to
you
meet
was
you.
on Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
When was that, about 74 or 75?
75.
Yeah.
We've been friends, we just didn't know
We
it.
just didn't know it. That's right.
It didn't take long for the conversation to turn to what's brought Calvin and Maria together.
Yeah, it's burnt right in my mind
That is
night.
mine too.
I seen it go up from right here, and that's when I seen it in the air with the blue light, and it took off that way, and it followed along that river.
Calvin's story has been questioned and doubted for most of his life. He says he had lost all hope of a witness coming forward, but now he and Maria both have a sense of relief.
I want to
so
thank
glad.
you for coming forward.
I can now put my mind at ease that I've told what I knew.
Before I die, I'll at least have somebody that come forward and ease my mind a little bit.
3 people have now told their stories of the UFO on the Pasgacoula River. Calvin Parker has written a book about it, and he doesn't think these will be the last stories told of extraterrestrial life on Earth.
It's foolish to look up in the sky and see all these stars, and all these stars has got planets around them, and think that we're the only life.